This is Anthony John Agnello, host of Games Radar's How It's Done. This week on the show, we spoke with Austin Wintory, the composer on Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Austin told us all about the creation of the music for the game and the game's entire development, going in depth on how Ubisoft wanted to make a far more experimental Assassin's Creed this time out. See, now you have, at this point, sort of marked yourself in the world of games as having a very eclectic voice. A lot of people who might be watching right now you've likely played at least something Austin has composed the music for. You are very famous for your work that you did with that game company, including Flow and Journey. And now you have the work you've done for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which I gotta tell you, man, I had not played the game until today. I wanted to sort of freshly experience it for the stream. Nice. And right off the bat, right in the very first mission, it is so different. The oral landscape of this game is freaking weird, especially not just for Assassin's Creed, but for AAA games. Like the sort of wild, weird, almost dissonant strings in the very first mission with Jacob was unusual, to say the least.
Yeah, by design. It's awesome that comes through. I'm thrilled to hear you say that, honestly, because that was sort of the premise we were aspiring to. You know, the audio director, who's this amazing woman named Lydia Andrew, said she reached out to me when they were moving to the point of wanting to bring a composer on board and to bring the game to the finish line, and said, we want to pretty dramatically shake things up from the way we've done the prior games. We want to essentially treat nothing as sacred. And then the really amazing, kind of miraculous part is she then said, what is your wildest idea for how to do a Victorian-era Assassin's Creed? And it was very open-ended. You know, there was no prescriptive kind of, here's what we're looking for, can you kind of do that? It was this broad, sweeping, we just kind of want to hear your take. And they gave me some basic info on the game. I wasn't able to really dig my claws into the game itself until shortly after this, but just as this initial conversation, I just saw some like capture of gameplay, and they sent me some documents to kind of walk me through the basic story with Jacob and Evie and that sort of thing, and just to kind of get the ideas brewing in a general sense. And so that's where this kind of neo-classical music, like you said, this sort of slightly dissonant, slightly, I hate to say experimental, because that it's in fact I'm not saying experimental.
Well, in the context of Assassin's Creed, I think experimental is fair.
Yeah, maybe it's just a term that it's like one person's experimental in the world of music is another person's extreme conservatism, because to them experimental means like when I was in college, I'd go to a concert that's 3 violins, a cell phone, and a horse.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, that's actually earnestly experimental. But
the guy played the shit out of that horse. He just played the bejesus out of that horse. It was amazing.
Yeah, amazing range. So in any case, they just said, what do you think? And I wrote some ideas and I sent it to them, figuring I'd never hear from them again, and that they would kind of summarily dismiss this approach as too weird for AC, and instead they basically came back with, when can you start? Are you good to fly up here on Monday kind of thing.
Wow.
And it was a dream. And then the entire process of working together, which was, the better part of a year, was just like one meeting after another where I just get a little bit more weird each time. And I kept thinking, this is going to be the moment where finally reality sets in and they say, okay, we've departed from our familiar waters just too much. And instead it was like, oh, this is even better than the last thing, where they just kept encouraging me to go, because at one point I said, what if all the combat music feels more like dancing and it's all sort of quasi-Viennese waltzes?
Wow.
And they were kind of like, well, interesting. Well, I guess we'll just have to hear it. And I thought, okay, this is going to be, finally, this is the moment that I'm either going to be fired or they're gonna say, okay, we got to reel this weird dude in. And it was this opposite turning of the corner where it was like, oh, the waltzes, we have found the heart and soul of the game. It was suddenly like, this is what makes Syndicate now. And it's just like a dream. I mean, it's surreal to me. I always figured after Journey, there was never going to be an experience that could hope to live up to something like that, because it was such a wonderful thing to be a part of. The game was, I love that game company so much and all the people involved. And on the Sony side as well, they were just such great collaborators. And this was pretty, stiff competition for that experience, to say the very least.
If you enjoyed this interview, please follow Games Radar here on youtube.com/GamesRadar and follow us on Twitch as well.
That was a pretty sweet video, right? If you want to see more, go to Games Radar's YouTube page over here. Or if you want to read, maybe up your game a little bit, go to GamesRadar.com.